Hello, everybody. Anyways, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Monday, October the 13th, 2025. So, hope everybody's had a good weekend thus far. Hey, Metal, thanks for popping in, my friend. Oh, I guess, well, we have at least one other person here, so I guess I can just go right into it. So, I've got a couple articles I'm going to go over tonight. Both from bounding into comics. Um, let's see, one of which is talking about so DC creative head Jim Lee has stated that the Batman Superman house will not support AI generated storytelling or audio, so we'll take a look at a little bit more in depth on that comic book side of it. Also, Marvel Comics teases Ultimate Universe coming to an end in April 26th. So we'll see about all that. Plus, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up. Get caught up on all the latest from what happened over the weekend. Of course, WWE has been in Australia this weekend, so I think they've already aired the Raw. So we'll of course look back to Friday Night SmackDown and today's Monday Night Raw, and of course this past Saturday's Crown Jewel in Perth as well. Also, we'll look back at Saturday's AEW Collision show, and of course some big news coming out of TNA this past Sunday. With the Bound for Glory pay-per-view and the Hall of Fame inductions. Plus, we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, anyways, I'm going to go off camera for a quick second. I'll be right back, but I'll put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone. So I'll be right back. Once I get back, we'll get right into the articles. All right. Well, anyways, sorry about that. Anyways, so before we do get into the articles, friendly reminder, of course, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that being said, why don't we go ahead, get started with the material at hand here. So that, of course, goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. So with that, let's go ahead and let me find what we're looking for here. Just going through real quick here and just seeing what's up. All right, so alrighty then. So there we go. So let's get going here then. All right, so we'll start off with this first article here. DC Comics creative boss Jim Lee declares Batman Superman house, quote, will not support AI generated storytelling or audio, unquote. Now, of course, AI has been a highly controversial issue over the last few years. The idea of while maybe in some ways technically superior, still lacks that human touch that makes any kind of art form what truly is art. So, anyways, article by Spencer McCauley published back on October 9th, which was, I believe, this last Thursday. So let's go ahead and get into this. And again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if anything grabs your attention. And I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, here we go. In taking a stand against a future filled with actual, genuine slop, DC Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee has made it clear that so long as he's around, neither Batman nor Superman nor any of the publisher's many costumed heroes and villains will ever find their adventures produced by way of generative AI. The Batman Hush 2 artist took a stance against the AI in shitification. Okay, that's a new one. In shitification. Okay. In shitification. Okay, that's a very interesting word to come up with. Kind of a nice way of sneaking in a swear word by adding a few more letters to it and making it sound a lot more pompous and Metal, I don't know if you ever heard that. I don't know if you're still here, my friend, but don't know if you've ever heard that particular phrasing before. Um, anyways, anyways, as we continue on with the article here, DC's output while speaking to the publisher's future during the 2025 New York Comic Con self-explanatory Retailer Day. Opening with a note on how 2035 will mark DC's 100th anniversary. Yes, that's when, of course, more New Fun Comics #1 hit newsstands, as it were, back in 1935. Quote, and yes, I fully intend to be here for that. Yes, hopefully still drawing, hopefully still not working on Hush 2, unquote, he joked. Quote, too soon, unquote. Lee turned to, quote, talk about why we're bullish about the future. unquote. Quote, I'd say we're absolutely on the right track, thanks in large part to our combined hard work and resilience, and some creative geniuses like, in brackets, Absolute Batman, Volume 1, DCKO, Volume 1, writer, parentheses, Mr. Scott Snyder, and, in brackets, The Flash, Volume 5, Superman, Volume 6, writer Josh Williamson. Quote, quote, it's impressive that comics continue to evolve, to change, and that we, the caretakers, do the same as we stare down a troubling future. A future with many a storm cloud on the horizon, challenges such as AI-generated writing and art, shrinking attention spans, characters drifting into the public domain, and the constant tug of war between digital and print. Now, mind you, a lot of corporations, the reason that they might want to go more for AI is that it's cheaper. Rather than having to pay somebody to do the artwork and the writing and stuff like that, they just have AI and they feel they save themselves from some cash. Albeit it's not always looked upon as being too favorable, but because the last thing I think anybody wants is to be put out of work, especially by a machine. Even though there's always been, I guess, kind of a fear of that for the last 50, 60 years from the idea of factories going the automated route to today, where we're talking about the idea of AI taking over fields within media, from writing and art to television, and all that. So, and here's the thing: every era has its killer bees. I don't know if anyone in this room knows that reference. So when I was a kid, we were told swarms of killer bees were coming up from South America to take over and ravage the world. Obviously, it didn't happen, but it was something I spent a lot of sleepless nights on. And then we were told Japan's booming miracle economy would overwhelm and crush all their rivals. That too did not happen. Then it was Y2K, then NFTs, and now it's AI. Unquote. From there, turning from general musing to decisive action, Lee then asserted, quote, history has a way of humbling predictions. The future rarely turns out the way the headlines warn us it will. But let me make one prediction. I know I can stand by today. DC Comics will not support AI-generated storytelling or audio, not now, not ever, as long as, in brackets here, DC Senior Vice President, General Manager, unbracketed, and Depee and I are in charge, unquote. So he's basically making a very declarative commitment statement that basically no matter how things go, he's not going to allow AI to take over DC. He's going to still have actual people doing the work. So that's a very declarative commitment that he's making right there. Anyways, as we get back to the article, here's Sunday. Come on over, let me do real quick. And again, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. And I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. So, with that, as we continue on, providing an aptly poetic insight into his and DeP's rationale, the Justice League Volume 2 penciler continued, quote, because what we do and why we do it is rooted in our humanity. It's that fragile, beautiful connection between imagination and emotion that fuels our media, the stuff that makes our universe come alive. Quote, it's the perfect mind, the creative risk, the hand-drawn gesture that no algorithm can replicate. And when I draw, I make mistakes. A lot of them. As do we all, right? As human beings, we're generally a very flawed creature at that. But that's the point. The smudge, the rough line, the hesitation, that's me in the work. That's my journey. That's what makes it come alive. It's a product of true effort, of inspiration and perspiration. Quote, fans know this. They sense this. They can feel when something was made with care, when it costs the artist time, energy, heart, and effort. People have an instinctive reaction to what feels authentic. We recoil from what feels fake. That's why human creativity matters. Quote, AI doesn't dream, it doesn't feel, doesn't make art, it aggregates it. Our job as creators, as storytellers, and as publishers is to make people feel something real. That's why we create, and that's why we're still here. Unquote. Drawing his thoughts on the topic to a close with a similar declaration on the aforementioned public domains issue, centered on the fact that a number of DC's most iconic characters are set to enter the public domain in the next 2 decades, including Superman and Lois Lane, 2034, Batman, 2035, Joker, 2036, and Wonder Woman, 2037. Lee assured retailers, quote, yes, characters will fall into the public domain. We've all seen these unsettling knockoffs of Mickey Mouse lurking around online. But here's the truth. The character isn't the magic. The storytelling is. The world building is. Quote, owning Superman isn't the same as understanding Superman. Knowing how he moves, how he speaks, what he stands for, anyone can draw a cape. Anyone can write a hero. That's been around as long as comics have been. It's called fan fiction. Quote, and there's nothing wrong with fan fiction. It shows how deeply these characters live inside all of us. But Superman only feels right when he's in the DC universe, our mythos. That's what endures. That's what will carry us into the next century, unquote. So he's already looking ahead to the 23rd century. We're in the 22nd century. Or no, actually, we're in the 21st century right now, 2000s here. He's already looking into the 22nd century. Anyways. Far from the case of cynical PR, DC has previously put their money where their mouth is when it comes to their quote no AI, smaller quote no AI, unsmaller quote stance. In July 2024, the publisher pulled a pair of variant covers as provided by Francesco Mattina and set to appear on Superman, Volume 6, number 18, and Batman the Brave and the Bold, Volume 2, number 17, both featured above, quote unquote, after noted Marvel Comics artist Adi Granoff accused them of being AI generated. Quote, when image generators first came to prominence, the first person who came to mind was the serial plagiarist Francesco Mattina, as I thought he'd think all his Christmases have come at once. If you don't remember, he made a whole career out of photo bashing other people's art, mine included, in parentheses. So I guess this is Adi Granoff commenting here, into whatever you want to call his work. Smaller quotes there. Quote, I don't post about artists I dislike, but I neither consider him an artist nor can I hide my dislike for the continued blatant plagiarism. Anyhow, here's his new cover. Not only is he a hack, but he's not even good enough to hide the glaring mistakes on one of the most iconic symbols in all of pop culture. All right, so there we go. We go with that one. I am going to need to step away from the computer for a moment here. I will be right back, but I'm going to step away here. So, but what I will do is I'll put some music on to entertain you guys. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Anyways, let's see now. All right, so let's get into the next article here. The last one we'll do for tonight. And again, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, continuing on with the articles here. Marvel Comics teases Ultimate Universe coming to an end in April 2026, and hopefully it stays that way. Article by Spencer McCulley, also published back on last Thursday, October 9th. So apparently he's not a big fan of the idea of them having brought back Ultimate Universe. So let's see what he has to say about all this. So with the Maker's upcoming emergence from his 2-year forced exile within the walls of his time-dilating The City Laboratory, it appears that Marvel Comics' current iteration of the Ultimate Universe, from Ultimate Spider-Man to Ultimate X-Men, will in some way, shape, or form be coming to an end, and for the sake of the current storytelling legacy, one can only hope that it's a definitive one. Alright, so here we go with this. Sealed away at the end of September 2023's Ultimate Invasion, Volume 1, Number 4, and set to finally emerge this December to kick off the 5-part Ultimate Endgame, Volume 1, was initially speculated by fans to not to be not a, in smaller quotes, true end to Earth 1610, but rather a conclusion to its first overarching storyline, with its various series continuing and being added to as normal following the upcoming event. Mm-hmm. However, as spotted by Bleeding Cool's Rich while attending the 2025 New York Comic Con's Retailer Day exhibition, Marvel Comics is now outright advertising, stylized graphic, and all that, quote, the Ultimate Universe comes to an end, unquote, in April 2026, which just so happens to coincide with the assumed release date of Ultimate Endgame, Volume 1's final issue. And there it is right there. Admittingly, the Ultimate Universe's second go round, in parentheses, or third if you count the collapsing Earth 1610 visited by the Maker in Venom Volume 4, Number 26, itself intended to be the, in smaller quotes, second chance inflection point for Earth 6160 by original Ultimate Reboot author Donny Cates, who was ultimately abandoned after Jonathan Hickman took over for him following his infamous car accident, unparenthesed, is, in small quotes, coming to an end, unsmaller quote, means very little in the realm of comic books, as it could mean anything from the line actually being brought to a close to a line-wide reboot to a simple shuffling of featured heroes. Hell, it could even mean the new Earth 6160 will be folded to the original Earth 1610 universe, um, leading to a new, smaller quote, unified ultimate, smaller quote, line. The possibilities at this point are endless. To make matters even more ambiguous, the Ultimate Endgame's creative team has been exceptionally tight-lipped regarding its plot details. Um, with writer Dennis Camp um, simply noting that, quote, I know there have been and will be a million comic book crossovers, and it can be hard to get excited for them, but this one is different, unquote. Quote, not only is it the culmination of years of stories, it's genuinely radical in its consequence. The Ultimate Universe will not be the same. It's incredible what Marvel is letting us do. In fact, what they are encouraging us to do. Anyway, more later, but it's going to be beautiful and bold, and I feel very privileged that I get to do this. However, no matter the exact mechanics of the Ultimate Universe's forthcoming end, there is something to be said for it to be definitive in its execution. In other words, no matter the outcome of Ultimate Endgame, the best possible outcome is the complete closure of its opening 2-year arc, no ifs, and or buts. That's not to say the line's current output is bad, far from it. In fact, an argument can be made right now that while its quality may range, the Ultimate Black Panther's MCU Black Panther-like storytelling, falling on the lower end, Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimates on the upper, Ultimate X-Men, um, incredible as it may be, leaving fans divided over author and artist Peach Momoko's. Peach Momoko. Kind of a redundant name right there, Peach, right? Because Momoko, I believe, is the Japanese word for peach. So Peach. Peach Momoko's more Japanese style storytelling. The Ultimate Universe is delivering the adrenaline, shot to the heart that some of these franchises needed, especially in terms of capturing the interest of non-comic book aficionados. Hmm. However, an even stronger argument can be made that it would be an absolute disservice to everyone involved in its execution to let the line's success itself, only possible by way of their collective and respective creative directions, have its legacy brought down by any possible attempt by Marvel Comics to, smaller quotes, cash in on its reputation. Again, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And it's not like comic books of all mediums are a stranger to such sales tricks. Well-known examples include the Grant Morrison's acclaimed DC series Multiversity, having its branding slapped on the Tumblr-targeted Multiversity, Teen Justice, Volume 1, and the Hot Topic-oriented Multiversity Harley Screws Up, the DCU, Volume 1, DC's 2012, before Watchmen attempted to expand on Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' original mythos, and Marvel's recent Giant Size series of one-shots. Its premise based on Kamala Khan being thrown into a number of historical X-Men events, including the Dark Phoenix Saga, House of M, and the Age of Apocalypse. Anyways, as such, if Marvel Comics plans to continue the Ultimate Universe past its upcoming showdown with the Maker, readers can only hope it's in the form of Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 4 and Ultimate X-Men Volume 3, thus defining the original storyline as its own effort, both able to stand on its own and be read as part of a potentially larger exploration of Earth 6160, and not a numbered continuation. Set to cap off 2025 with a Maker-provided bang, Ultimate End, Volume 1, Number 1, hit shelves on December 31st. So, way to end the year there, buddies. All right, so those are our main stories tonight. So, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the story. So now, of course, we're going to start to move on to the wrestling wrap-up, as we do have quite a bit to talk about. There's a number of things that have been going on over the weekend here. Was, of course, and I believe I mentioned this on Friday as well, it was announced that Ash by Elegance has, in fact, officially retired. It's been confirmed by a few of the news outlets. So as such, but anyways, we're gonna get ready to take a look back over this weekend's wrestling activities, as we had quite a busy weekend, particularly WWE and TNA. Of course, WWE had on Saturday they had we already did talk about the Friday show. That's right, because that was done early, because they're in Perth, Australia. They were in Perth, Australia, so we did actually go over that already. So we'll actually start off on Saturday then, and take a look, of course, at Crown Jewel, as there were some interesting things that came out of that. So let's go ahead and talk about that first. I completely forgot that I did actually, in fact. So Crown Jewel saw Crown Jewel, which aired on ESPN live in the RAC Arena in Perth, Western Australia, with Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on commentary. The opening match of the event saw Bronson Reed, with Paul Heyman in his corner, defeat Roman Reigns in an Australian street fight. basically the idea is that it looks like WWE is looking to push Bronson, the Aussie native, getting a big win in his hometown against the former undisputed heavyweight champion there. There was some drama that happened as even though he had asked them not to interfere in his match, Reigns' cousins, the Usos, Jay and Jimmy Uso, came down to try to help him, only for their help to somewhat backfire, leading to some friction between Reigns and the Usos. Then you had what many would argue was probably, never mind that. Then you had the women's crown jewel title match going on, a battle between WWE Women's World Champion Stephanie Vaquer and WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton, with Vaquer getting the win over Stratton, finishing her off with a moonsault after Stratton failed to hit her version of the moonsault. Tiffany Stratton hit one of her own to get the win on Stratton. Then in probably what is considered the match of the night, John Cena defeated AJ Styles. Before the match, John Cena had handed the ring announcer something that she wanted read, was a tribute to AJ Styles' career, and talked a lot about his 25 plus year career, from his time in TNA as a phenomenal one to his time in the Bullet Club as the ace of the Bullet Club, and this match saw many tributes to many wrestlers they both had faced over the years, as you saw a plethora of finishing moves from everybody from The Undertaker to Triple H to of course Christopher Daniels, Edge. So, but John Cena getting the win in this their final match of their career against each other. There has been some talk that AJ has also been talking a little bit about his time coming soon in terms of retiring. I think AJ had made the comment in some interviews over the last couple of years that he's looking to retire by the time he hits 50. And in a big match that is said to set some, probably in another big match here, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley defeated the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, in what some people are looking at as a possibility of a potential Survivor Series match coming up next month, as this rivalry is continuing to build, as Asuka and Kairi feeling somewhat slighted by Io and her recent association with Rhea Ripley. And in the main event, saw the men's crown jewel title match going on, as WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins defeated undisputed champion Cody Rhodes, as Cody Rhodes, having been the former crown jewel champion from last year. So that's all we got for that, and I'll be talking a bit more about tonight's Raw as well. So also happening on Saturday, AEW Collision, as they are building up towards, next Saturday's Wrestle Dream event. So I will get to that in a moment here. Actually, technically now this Saturday's Wrestle Dream event, as AEW's Collision Homecoming, which came from Daly's Place, which was, of course, was AEW's home for much of COVID, from Jacksonville, Florida. You had, of course, Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone on commentary, and it was on TNT. The opening match of the evening saw Josh Alexander defeat Kota Ibushi by countout. So this match was actually ended earlier than expected, I believe, due in part to the fact that Ibushi got hurt. He apparently slipped off the top rope, injuring his leg, and it was apparently a very legit injury. So he was counted out. They got him to the hospital, so hopefully he'll be okay. The next match saw a tag team match. Former members of the Acclaimed tag team, former AEW World Tag Team Champions Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, teamed up together to defeat Big Bill and Brian Keith. And then in a women's tag team match, TJ, Anna Jay, and Ty Mello defeated Caroline Cruz and Dream Girl Early in 2 minutes 10 seconds. Then of course, in a 6-woman tag match, the Triangle of Madness of Sky Blue, Julia Hart, and Tekla defeated the team of AEW Women's World Champion Chris Statlander, 4-time Women's Champion Toni Storm, and Harley Cameron. In another 6-man tag match, La Facción Ingobernables Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Rush and Guevara teaming with Dralistico with Beast Mordos in their corner to defeat Eminem TV of Johnny TV and Mason and Mansoor and Mason Madden, Ty Valkyrie in their corner. Then Eddie Kingston, following up on that, defeated the Beast Mordos in just over 8 minutes. And the main event saw in a mixed tag team match the team calling themselves Top Gods of FTR's Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler with Megan Bayne in their corner, with Megan Bayne teaming with Megan Bayne, with Penelope Ford and Stokely in their corner, defeating the team of Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight and Willow Nightingale. So that's all we got, and of course we do have at least one more show before this Saturday's Wrestle Dream. There's a Dynamite, and I think they will be doing a Collision as well before next Saturday, or this Saturday's Wrestle Dream. A lot of build towards that. So now we're going to move ahead to Sunday, as happening yesterday. TNA's Bound for Glory. Now, Bound for Glory is of course the premium event for TNA. It's basically their WrestleMania for all intents and purposes. Prior to the big event, TNA had a countdown to Bound for Glory on YouTube with, of course, Tom Hannafan and Matthew Rainwell on commentary, coming from the Songus Center at UMass Lowell. On the pre-show, the team known in TNA, known as the Inspiration, known in the WWE as the Iconic, Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay, granted the contractual rematch for the former Chance Elegance brand, Heather and M by Elegance, as Inspiration were able to retain the Knockouts World Tag Team Champion over the Elegance brand. And as I previously mentioned, it was confirmed that Ash by Elegance has, in fact, retired from in-ring competition. It said that she's still going to be around TNA. We'll probably be doing some backstage stuff, but she is. I don't know why she ended up having to retire. There's been nothing's been said about what her injury may have been, but Ash by Elegance has in fact retired. Put the So now we're going to get to the main show, as it were. Oh, and also prior to the event, of course, also happening prior to the event was the TNA Hall of Fame ceremony, in which five-time TNA Knockouts World Champion, five-time TNA World Knockout Champion Mickie James was inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame, as well as another pair of big names. The beautiful people, Angelina Love and Velvet Sky, were also inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame for their contributions to TNA. So now to the card itself. The opening match saw the international title up for a grab, and Steve Maclin regained the title from Frankie Kazarian in just over 8 minutes. Then in the second match of the evening, in a match that was heavily panned, this was set up Tessa Blanchard taking on Gia Miller. Now, Gia Miller, even though this was her first in-ring match in TNA, has actually had some experience on the indie circuit wrestling. Gia Miller had, of course, Jody Threat in her corner, while Tessa Blanchard had Victoria Crawford in her corner. Now, this match was initially born out of the fact that Tessa Blanchard had just severely beat up Gia Miller, taking her out, leading to Blanchard's suspension up until a couple weeks ago. This match was heavily panned in part because even though Gia Miller is not a wrestler in TNA, she's more of a backstage interviewer and all that. She does have some experience in the ring, and this was just a squash, basically what they call in the wrestling, where basically one person just dominates another. And I think a lot of fans were hoping to see Gia give Tessa some comeuppance from after being attacked, a couple months back. But this match was heavily panned, seeing Tessa get the victory over Gia. And on top of all that, too, apparently some shenanigans happened. I don't know if it was a right to the eyes that just further. It basically made Gia look very bad and Tessa look very dominant. And then in a Call Your Shot Gauntlet match happened, in which Frankie Kazarian and Nick Nemeth won in just under 31 minutes. So basically, Call Your Shot Gauntlet match is a type of match in which you have a battle royal. You have kind of a gauntlet style battle royal, similar to the Royal Rumble, up and down until you get to the last two competitors, in which the last two competitors will face off against each other to win the match. Once everybody else has been eliminated, the last two in there will have a regular wrestling match. So it came down to Frankie Kazarian and Nick Nemeth, as Frankie Kazarian entered, even though he was originally not supposed to be entered into the match. This is another match that was somewhat panned. He took out Jody Threat, took her spot, only for Santino Marella to also get involved in the match. And then when it did get down to Kazarian and Nemeth, ended up being a double pin situation, which was, again, the result was heavily panned by many, to where now they both get they both basically have a call your shot opportunity to call in on. Then next was the TNA Knockout World Title, as NXT's Kalani Jordan, who recently defeated JC Jane for that title, defeated Indy Hartwell in that match. And then in the Hardcore War match, saw the system defeat Order 4 as seeing some very nasty stuff going on, including Alicia Edwards getting power bombed into some tacks. Then the TNA X Division title was on the line, as it ended in a no contest, as initially went to a 20-minute draw. The match was, of course, Leon Slater defending the TNA X Division title against NXT's Javon Evans, the battle of two of the young up-and-coming stars. The match ended up in a no contest when, after going to a time limit draw, Santino Marella came out and gave 5 more minutes to the match, only for NXT's Dark State stable to come in and basically ruin the match, ending it in a no contest. Then in another match that was more for nostalgia's sake than anything else, in a tables match for the TNA World Tag Team and NXT Tag Team titles, the Hardy Boys defeated Team 3D in a surprise move, as Bully Ray, Brother Runt, aka Spike Dudley, came out of retirement to accompany his brothers to the ring, Bully Ray and Devon. Now, of course, Brother Runt and Devon had been retired for some time, and I'll get to that in a moment. But this was now, as with some tag team tables matches, as the rules stated here, both members of the team had to be put through a table. And while the ending was somewhat panned, as Bubba Ray kind of just allowed himself to be put through a table, after the match, there was, essentially the Dudley Boys had officially retired from in-ring competition after the match, in a moment in which all 4 men, the Hardys and the Dudleys, or Team 3D, as they were in the ring together, Bully Ray and Devon gave their wrestling boots to the Hardys in a callback to tradition that when a wrestler decides to retire, they will leave their wrestling boots in the ring, and thereby. Now, Devon, of course, has been retired for a few years now. He medically, he's not really, can not be cleared to wrestle on too many occasions. Supposedly, he has some neck and back issues, I believe. But I believe this, they had of them officially retired. And in the main event, and what probably is the one thing that probably everybody was hoping for had happened, the TNA World Title on the line, as Trick Williams defended against Mike Santana, with Mike Santana finally getting the payoff, hitting the spin the block on Trick Williams in order to become the new TNA World Champion. So that's all we got for that. And then now taking a look at what happened on today's Monday Night Raw, coming from Perth, Australia. As happening earlier today, our time, it was basically like, I think it was like 5 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time here in the States. As from the RAC Arena in Perth, Western Australia, with Wade Barrett, Michael Cole on commentary on Netflix. Opening match on today's Monday Night Raw saw Dominic Mysterio retaining the international title over Penta, as it was also determined that once again Rusev has been declared the number one contender to the Intercontinental title. There is some talk that they may be setting up an Intercontinental title defense match for Dominic at Survivor Series against John Cena, with the hopes that maybe John Cena will win the one belt in the WWE that he's never won, the Intercontinental title belt, to truly become the Grand Slam champion. In another match that is set to be continuing this rivalry, Rhea Ripley with Io Sky in her corner defeated Kairi Sane with Asuka in her corner. With some people talking about the possibility of these two teams being part of some kind of Survivor Series elimination match coming up at Survivor Series next month. Bronson Reed defeated Jey Uso in just over 7.5 minutes. In a women's tag team match, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria defeated the Judgment Day female duo of Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. And then in a number one contendership triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight title, CM Punk defeated Jey Uso and LA Knight. During this match, it was the Vision came to an end as Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker turned on Seth Rollins as he came in and got involved in the match. But the Vision has officially come to an end as Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed have turned on Seth Rollins. So that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now with that being said, of course, today is Monday. Today is Monday, September the 13th, 2025. So why don't we go ahead and get ready to take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! So 1999, 1955, 2020, 2020. All right. So first off, I'm going to head back 70 years ago. As on this date, 70 years ago today, and I grab it. On this date, 70 years ago today, WWE and NWA Hall of Famer Buddy Rogers, who's also a former NWA World Heavyweight and WWF World Heavyweight Champion Buddy Rogers, would regain the Midwest Wrestling Alliance's Eastern title from Bill Miller in Columbus, Ohio. So on this date, 70 years ago today, back in 1955, Buddy Rogers would defeat Bill Miller to regain the MWA Eastern title. So there we go with that. Now moving ahead to the year 1999. That's now that I grab that. On this date, 26 years ago today, in the year 1999, the 80th issue of Betty from Archie Comics went on sale on this date back in 1999. Sold for $1.79, 32 pages. Among the stories included 4 Betty stories and a Sabrina story. The Sabrina story, of course, Oh Baby. And then the Betty stories included Art for Art's Sake, Fish Hooked, Caught in the Net, and Beautiful Dreamer. So we have some artsy and some maybe fishing type references here for this particular issue. But the 80th issue of Betty went on sale on this date back in 1999. And now as we going to move on. Now we move ahead to the year 2020. on this date in the year 2020. This date in the year 2020 from 5 years ago today, from Warner Brothers Animation, DC Entertainment. The adult animated interactive superhero film that explores alternate outcomes. Batman: Death in the Family. Let's see. Based on the 1988 comic storyline, A Death in the Family, where Jason Todd was killed. This movie was released on this date back in 2020. It's said to be the spiritual successor to Batman Under the Red Hood from 2010. So, the 2020 movie Batman: Death in the Family from Warner Brothers Animation and DC Entertainment was released on this date back in direct to Blu-ray on this date back in 2020, 5 years ago today. This, of course, it was, of course, based on the was based on the Death in the Family storyline back in 1988 that saw Jason Todd initially get murdered by the Joker. And 2020 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. As also on this date in the year 2020, the following anime premiered on this date back in 2020. So, PA Works 3 Hertz's A3's Autumn and Winter season, as well as Yokohama Animation Laboratories, Magatsu, Wahite, Zurst, and the 3rd season of Mr. Osomatsu from Puro, all premiered on this date back in 2020. So 5 years ago today, A3 Autumn and Winter season from PA Works 3 Hertz, Magatsu, Wahite, Zurst from Yokohama Animation Laboratory, and the 3rd season of Mr. Otsumatsu from Puro, all premiered on this date back in 2020. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow. Also, don't forget this Sunday, be continuing our look. We'll be finishing up. Let's see. Actually, yeah, we'll be finishing up our June 1940 coverage of our historical comic retrospect. I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium, and we'll be looking at comics that went on sale from United Features from that date. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.